A couple of weeks ago, I did a series of videos on what people can expect when they're arriving back in Canada after traveling abroad, especially as regards the Quarantine Act. Now, I had a couple of people comment in the comments box that I don't know what I'm talking about because they made it through the border without a Quarantine Act ticket, and therefore people shouldn't listen to the stupid lawyer, they should listen to them. However, for every one of those comments I got in the comments box, I've gotten about a half dozen phone calls from people who did get tickets when they were at the airport or crossing the border. So for the people who have received Quarantine Act tickets, I want to do a quick video outlining some things that you should be aware of to put yourself in the best position to try to contest these. Hello, my name is Nicholas Wansbutter. I'm a lawyer in Stratford, Ontario, Canada, and welcome to Don't Talk TV. So as I mentioned, I've had quite a number of people contacting me over the last couple of weeks. It seems like this is really ramping up where people are being given tickets under the Quarantine Act, mostly for not using the ArriveCan app, although some people also being charged for not quarantining, not giving a quarantine plan, or not testing before they enter Canada. So I want to talk about those, and some people are given tickets after the fact. Some people get them right at the border, some people receive summons in the mail at a later date. And you're not necessarily home free until a significant period of time has passed. For Provincial Offences Act notices, for example, they have 6 months generally to lay the charge. So if you make it to 6 months with no charge, you're home free. However, for Quarantine Act, it's 2 years. Now, even though the Quarantine Act is a federal act, they've been using Provincial Offences Act notices for charging people. So I'm going to take a look at Provincial Offences Act notices first. So I've got on my screen here just a sample Provincial Offences Act notice. I think I got this off the City of Brampton website. So I'll just zoom in here and take a look at a couple things that are important. So the top of it isn't as important. You've just got your icon location code. That's the location where you were issued the ticket number. They've got the date of the alleged offense, your name and address, and some other information, and they'll have the offense listed here. So usually they're listing that you didn't follow whatever rule contrary to Section 58 of the Quarantine Act. Now here's the really important part that I want people to be aware of. This bit right down here in the bottom, where it says important. You have 15 days from the day you receive this notice to choose one of the options on the back of the notice. Now, the options on the back of the notice are, one, to just send a check in the mail with the amount of the ticket, which is about $6,000 after taxes on these Quarantine Act tickets. Option 2 is to request an early resolution hearing. That's a meeting with the Crown Attorney where you try and convince them to let you plead guilty for a lower fine. Option 3 is to set a trial. So my recommendation is that you immediately send in this notice with either options 2 or 3 checked off, and follow the instructions on the back of the ticket. It may be slightly different for each jurisdiction depending on what port of entry you came into, but you need to do that right away. Even if it says you have longer than 15 days, I recommend you do it right away. Make sure it doesn't get lost, make sure no one accuses you of not sending it in, make sure you preserve your right to a trial. Now, some people are being given summonses, which look like this one. Again, this is just an example I took off the City of Brampton website, but it gives you the basics, and it'll be laying out your name and address at the top and the details of the offense. But then in this red circled area here, it'll give you the notice of when your court date is. So that's where and when you need to attend. So when you're given a summons, you don't have to send anything in. You've already been given a court date, and you just need to make sure that you show up on that date. Now, it's up to each individual whether they want to fight these. I think if everyone who got a Quarantine Act ticket fought them, that the system might quickly get backlogged, and they might start reconsidering whether it's in the public interest to be prosecuting people for the quote-unquote crime of trying to re-enter their country after having visited somewhere abroad. Now, once you've sent that in, whether you select the trial or the early resolution, you are going to have a meeting with the Crown Attorney. Now, I recommend hiring a lawyer to assist you with this. Have a lawyer do the negotiation, but you're certainly entitled to do it yourself. Again, that'll be a meeting where you'll discuss whether there's a lesser fine they'd be willing to consider, or if there's a trial, you need to tell them what the issues are you want to raise at trial. So if you want to challenge the constitutionality of these orders that I discussed in those episodes I mentioned a couple weeks ago, you need to tell them at this time so that the right amount of time is set aside. And when you get to your trial date, you need to be ready to go that date. And keep in mind timelines for filing charter arguments. You have at least 30 days before the trial, you have to file a notice of application, and I recommend that that be supported with case law and possibly even a written factum laying out your argument. Now, these are all things that a lawyer can help you with. A lawyer could argue the whole case. You could talk to counsel about whether they'd be willing to do a limited scope retainer where they just help you write up the charter argument for a much reduced cost without them having to attend all the court dates. So there's a number of options to keep in mind, but I want to make sure people are aware of some of these basics so they don't find themselves default convicted and having a $6,000 fine registered against them. If you don't pay the fine, you could be sentenced to jail time. You could be refused the ability to renew your license. Nothing good comes of just ignoring the ticket. Fight it. I think there's a number of ways to fight it. In any event, this video isn't legal advice. If you need legal advice, contact a lawyer. You can call another lawyer or myself. My phone number and my website are listed below. If there's topics you'd like to see me cover on the show, please send us in a recommendation or a request to the email address listed below, or leave a comment in the comment section. And if you found this video at all interesting, helpful, or informative, please consider liking, sharing, subscribing, and following us on social media.